You wouldn't believe what goes on behind the scenes. These movie couples, who are totally adorable or at least convincing in their real-life romances, should get some kind of award because, apparently, butter wouldn't melt between them. They were cute on camera, but the moment cut is called, they can't stand the sight of each other. It's a real surprise we're unraveling. We're diving into the world of movie couples who were surprisingly not such lovebirds off-screen. Number 1. Harrison Ford and Sean Young. Guess what? When Sean Young first stepped into Hollywood, her debut role was Rachel, and boy, was that a big gig. She landed in one of the most epic sci-fi movies, a gem that wasn't recognized back then. Now, the juicy part? She worked with the charming and super talented Harrison Ford. But here's the catch, she wasn't exactly his fan. There's been lots of gossip about the pair's tense relationship during the filming of Blade Runner. Remember the scene where Deckard stops Rachel from ditching his flat? It's said that Ford got a bit too physical, which rubbed Young the wrong way. And it didn't stop there. The crew nicknamed their love scene the hate scene. Why? They couldn't stand getting all lovey-dovey with each other on camera. Sean Young and Harrison Ford eventually developed a close relationship despite their on-set tension. In fact, they even worked together again in the movie Witness a few years after Blade Runner. Their intense chemistry on-screen seemed to translate into a lasting bond off-screen. Sean Young's career after Blade Runner may not have reached the same level of fame and recognition, but she continued to work in a variety of roles. She appeared in movies like Dune, Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, and the 1989 Batman film as Catwoman. She also had a recurring role on the TV series The Young and the Restless. Young's personal life has also been filled with ups and downs. She married Robert Lugin from 1990 to 2002 and has 2 children. She has also been open about her struggles with alcoholism and bipolar disorder, which led to some negative publicity in the media. Number 2. Anthony Hopkins and Shirley MacLaine. Let's spill some tea on the comedy that brought laughs. We are talking about the movie Change of Season. It was about a much older couple who decided to step out on each other with much younger folks. It's the one with Hollywood bigwigs Anthony Hopkins and Shirley MacLaine playing the cheating pair. Although they played a married couple on film, Hopkins couldn't stand working with MacLaine in real life. He even went as far as saying she is the most annoying actress he's ever had to work with. Can you believe it? Unfortunately, the drama didn't stop there. The movie didn't charm the critics, earning it not 1, not 2, but 3 Razzie nominations. Yikes. The silver lining, though, is that MacLaine's spirited acting gave their on-screen love-hate relationship a touch of realism. The chemistry between the 2 leads, Hopkins and MacLaine, was both captivating and tumultuous, adding an extra layer of depth to their characters' actions. The movie may have been panned by critics, but it still managed to captivate audiences with its comedic take on infidelity and aging. Number 3. Richard Beymer and Natalie Wood, West Side Story, 1961. Do you know the timeless love saga West Side Story? Kind of a modern-day Romeo and Juliet. Well, let's spill the tea. The actress filling the shoes of our modern-day Juliet, the one and only Natalie Wood, wasn't exactly head over heels for her on-screen Romeo, Richard Beymer. No love lost there. Rumor has it Natalie had this list of hate stapled on her dressing room wall. The VIPs on the list? Those she couldn't stand to the point of despising. Guess who was her number 1? Yup, you nailed it. It's Ricky Boy, Richard Beymer. Our Juliet was not at all charmed by her Romeo. When Russ Tamblyn, the ever-curious, brought up the topic, Natalie said she couldn't stand Richie. No minced words there. The kicker is that poor Richard was in the dark about his place on the infamous list until almost 3 decades later. Russ finally filled him in when they were shooting Twin Peaks of all things. Talk about late-breaking news. People also say that Natalie's animosity towards Richard may have stemmed from her feeling overshadowed by his talent and popularity. She was reportedly jealous of his success and resented having to share the spotlight with him. However, it's also worth noting that Natalie had a reputation for being difficult on set and not getting along with many of her co-stars. Number 4. Humphrey Bogart and Audrey Hepburn, Sabrina, 1954. When the cameras rolled for Sabrina, it wasn't just scenes being shot. Sparks of emotion were flying around. Remember the legendary Audrey Hepburn and William Holden? Their brief yet much talked about romance during the shoot is still remembered by many. But an unexpected revelation, Holden's inability to father a child due to a previous vasectomy, led to Audrey ending their entanglement abruptly. Not to forget the undercurrents of resentment brewing in Humphrey Bogart when his better half, Lauren Bacall, didn't land the much coveted role of Sabrina. With Audrey in the role instead, Bogart's disposition toward her was far from friendly. He vented his frustration by critiquing her lack of experience and questioning her acting skills, often pointing out her multiple retakes. But as fate would have it, Audrey shone through all this vitriol. She begged an Oscar nomination for her role, leaving Bogart rather disgruntled and vexed. It's not uncommon for sparks to fly on set during a movie's filming. But what happens when those sparks turn into a full-blown romance? Sometimes it can lead to a beautiful story like Audrey Hepburn and William Holden in Sabrina. Other times it can end in heartbreak and disappointment. The behind-the-scenes drama of Sabrina is just one example of the complexities that can arise on a film set. While the finished product may seem flawless, there are often personal and emotional challenges that the actors and crew face during production. Number 5. Vince Vaughn and Reese Witherspoon's Four Christmases, 2008. This film features the compelling duo of Vince Vaughn and Reese Witherspoon, portraying a couple deeply in love, yet with a shared distaste for their kin that has them dodging family gatherings during the holiday season. It's somewhat fitting that the sparks between Vaughn and Witherspoon weren't just on screen. Ironically, they allegedly didn't get on well behind the camera. Their working styles were like oil and water. Witherspoon, an Academy Award recipient, preferred to stick closely to the script, focusing hard on delivering each scene perfectly. On the other hand, Vaughn had a more laid-back attitude and liked to throw in a bit of improvisation. So yes, differences were inevitable. After all, we're talking about Reese Witherspoon, an Oscar-winning artist, and Vince Vaughn, well, being Vince Vaughn. But as they say, the show must go on, and so it did. Number 6. Leonardo DiCaprio and Claire Danes. It's quite amusing that the most celebrated lovebirds of the literary world, Romeo and Juliet, were played by two actors who evidently couldn't stand each other in real life. This is a fun little tidbit from the 1996 contemporary reimagining of Shakespeare's renowned drama. Despite their characters falling head over heels for each other amidst a backdrop of family feuds, offstage, things weren't nearly as romantic. Claire Danes, who played Juliet, was less than pleased with her on-screen lover. She didn't mince words when expressing her exasperation about Leonardo DiCaprio behaving like a mischievous schoolboy, often playing practical jokes on the cast and crew and generally carrying a jester-like demeanor. DiCaprio suggested that Danes was too uptight and over-serious. He found her cold and snobby, starkly contrasting their on-screen chemistry. So, while Romeo and Juliet might have been relentlessly romantic, the stars that played them were anything but in sync behind the scenes. Number 7. William Baldwin and Sharon Stone, Silver, 1993. You'll find Billy Baldwin and Sharon Stone in the leading roles in this suspense-filled drama. They portray lovers caught up in a web of eerie happenings inside a tall residential building. As the film was being shot, there was a tale about Stone continuously trying to belittle Baldwin, much to his obvious displeasure. It's as if she was getting a kick out of constantly provoking him. There's a story about a particularly romantic scene in which Stone allegedly bit Baldwin's tongue so forcefully that he couldn't utter a word for a few days. The tension between them escalated, so they eventually asked to film their scenes apart. Their rapport had, without a doubt, hit a rocky patch. To add fuel to the fire, Stone later went on record saying she would have greatly preferred shooting the film if Baldwin's sibling, the very famous Alec Baldwin, had been cast in place of him. This could have been a major blow to any actor's ego, but surprisingly, Baldwin took it in stride and even managed to joke about it later on. In Hollywood, there's always tension between actors working together. Whether competing for screen time or clashing personalities, drama behind the scenes often rival what we see on the big screen. However, for certain films, this tension can enhance the performances and add an extra layer of depth to the portrayed characters. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you enjoyed the video and leave a comment below.